I was hunted by the not deer and wound up in an Appalachian horror story. I moved to West Virginia 3 years ago with my husband and 2 children. We're not that far from civilization or doing off-grid living, nothing like that, but we're far enough that the Appalachian Mountains tree line starts right at the back of our property. No fence, just a slope upward into thick woods. It's extremely atmospheric, but not always in a comfortable way. My husband, Christopher, loved the place immediately. He grew up around here, and he said it was peaceful and would be good for the kids. Our son Sawyer is 9, and Lizzie just turned 7. The backyard is their place to be. They play outside every day the weather allows, but they don't cross the tree line into the forest. I've told them it's because if they do, I can't see them anymore, but I don't think I was being fully honest about my reasons. In the day, the backyard is mostly peaceful, the sounds of the birds and the leaves, but it's somehow not right. And at night, it's worse. I first noticed something about 6 months after we moved in. I was doing the dishes, the kitchen window cracked open to let in the cool air, and the woods went quiet. I stopped moving and listened. It was silent, not the peaceful kind, but the sort where the hair stands up on the back of your neck, and you find yourself holding your breath to listen, because even your breathing sounds loud in the void. And then I heard the clear snap of a branch all the way across the yard. My heart began pounding so hard I could feel it. Somewhere just beyond the tree line, something was moving. I opened the window a bit farther and called out, "Christopher?" thinking maybe he'd gone outside. Rationally, I knew he was in the house, but I was open to any psychological trick that might stave off this impending panic attack. There was no answer, of course. The kids were asleep. The house was silent. I slammed the window shut and pulled the blinds down. I was in a frenzy I'm not proud to recall, but for some reason I was filled with dread. Whoever or whatever was outside felt like it was stalking me. I felt like prey being watched, and it unnerved me somewhere deep inside my soul. I went to the back door and made sure it was locked. I pulled the blinds, trying to stay out of sight. I kept the lights off, and then I went back to the kitchen window and peered out through the blinds. I had to hype myself up because I was terrified I was going to see a face staring right back at me. When I saw absolutely nothing but my backyard in the moonlight, I felt so relieved I nearly cried. But then I saw 2 eyes at the tree line, shining yellow, staring directly at me, its eyes reflecting the porch light. At first I thought it was a deer. We get them all the time, no big deal, right? Yeah, that's what I thought, until its eyes glazed over red. I screamed, a raw primal scream I've never made before in my life. Christopher was there when I turned around. He tried to comfort me, but I was a mess. It was watching me, I choked out, shaking. Christopher looked outside and saw the eyes, but told me they were just yellow again. I peered through the blinds alongside him. It's just a deer, he reassured me. Its front legs bent in a way that didn't look right, but it was hard to make it out in the dusk. It stood awkwardly, like an animal that didn't normally walk on all fours, with oddly bent limbs. We watched through the blinds for a while with both of us silent. I felt a cold, crawling sensation up my arms. "What do we do?" I whispered. "Get the kids in our bed, lock the door, and don't open it, even if I beg," Christopher told me. He had grown up steeped in the legends of Appalachia and was a believer in mimics and skinwalkers and the lore of falling for a mimic's call. "Like hell are you going out there? You will pick up Sawyer and I'll get Lizzie. We're in this as a family, whatever this is, and we're not a family without you. So go and get your son," I commanded. I tried hard to keep a light-hearted tone in the exchange, but he knew I was serious. That night the 4 of us slept in our bedroom. I didn't sleep well, and Christopher didn't sleep at all. When the sun rose and he had checked the entire house 3 times, he finally went to sleep. That week he put up cameras around the outside of the house and tried to give me a sense of safety again. It worked for a little while, but I started noticing sounds when I was in the backyard. Footsteps in the woods that didn't match the rhythm of deer, not light and quick, but slow and spaced out. Sometimes they would stop when I stopped moving, like whatever it was didn't want to be heard, which meant it could see me. Once I heard something circling around the house, not walking past, but circling. I told Christopher, and he checked the cameras. The nighttime images were grainy, but one had been caught in the porch light. "I don't know, it kind of looks like a deer's ass," he shrugged. "It's too big for that," I disagreed. "How many have you seen up close?" he asked, smiling at me. Not long after, the kids were playing outside in the late afternoon before dinner, while Christopher and I sat on the porch. Sawyer came running up to me, his face serious like he needed to tell me something important. "Mom," he asked, "why does that deer stand like that?" "What deer?" I asked. Christopher and I both sat up and began scanning the trees. Sawyer pointed toward a spot in the woods. "That one. It's been there for ages." I followed his finger. This time, it wasn't partially hidden. It stood at the edge of the trees, but fully visible in the daylight. And there was no mistaking it because, again, its legs looked off. Not broken or injured, just wrong. The joints didn't sit where they should. Its legs and back seemed too straight, too stiff, and its head was turned to the side as it stared at us, as if it was trying to understand something. "Don't look at it," I said quickly, pulling Sawyer close. "Why?" "Just don't." Christopher had already bolted into the yard, picked Lizzie up, and was headed back towards us. We went inside, him locking the door behind me and then glancing at me with wide eyes, although, of course, we reassured the kids. Whatever that thing was, it looked like a deer that had crawled out of hell and taken a liking to watching me and my family. The daylight wasn't even safe, and that was heartbreaking. My kids love the backyard. It would break their hearts if I told them they couldn't play there anymore. But things escalated after that. The sounds got closer. One night, I woke up to something tapping against the side of the house. 3 slow knocks. I held my breath, listening. Tap, tap, tap. I nudged Christopher awake. "Do you hear that?" He groaned. "What?" There was a scratching sound, followed by silence. He rolled over. "Probably a branch. I'll check in the morning." There are no trees close enough to reach the house. I knew Christopher hadn't fully woken, and likely wouldn't remember this conversation. So the next morning, I went out the back door to check the siding on the house. I was already freaking out a bit, being in the backyard alone, and when I went around to the side of the house, I felt terror come flooding back. There were marks on the siding, scratches, some kind of claw marks. Deer hoofs could not make these marks. And then the worst night happened about 2 weeks ago. It was raining heavily. The power flickered once, but it held. I was prepared for power outages, but it didn't feel safe to be in the dark in my own home anymore. We put the kids to bed and sat downstairs in the sunroom. We could see most of the backyard and the side yard from here, and we were watching the distant lightning. It wasn't the house proper, but it had walls, windows, and a lock on the door, so I felt safe enough being there, although I couldn't shake the now constant feeling that something was off. We had drifted off in our lounge chairs under the heavy rain sounds, but around midnight I woke up without knowing why. The rain had stopped, and it was silent. I heard breathing just outside the window nearest to me. I froze, held my breath, and then softly, so softly I almost thought I had imagined it, I heard something else. A sound, close enough that my blood ran cold. "Mom!" It sounded like Lizzie outside the window. Christopher sat up, disoriented. "What was that?" he whispered. "There's something outside that sounds like Lizzie." We both listened. Nothing for a minute, and then, "Mom, it's me, Lizzie. Let me in, Mommy." Right at the window, Lizzie's voice. Except she was asleep upstairs, and one thing immediately stood out. Lizzie has never called me Mommy, just Mom and Mama. Christopher got up, grabbing a flashlight. "Stay here." "No," I pleaded, grabbing his arm. "Don't open the door." No. You will not become the next victim in the stories you love so much." Something in my voice must have gotten through to him. We stood there a split second, frozen, staring at the window, then ran into the house and closed the door to the sunroom behind us. We went immediately to check, but Lizzie was in bed, sound asleep, and definitely not outside calling for me. Our home was being invaded by something we didn't understand, and there was no respite. We've made the decision to sell our house and leave here. This land isn't meant for us, and something has made that very clear. We've started packing and found a house in the next town over, where you have to drive to be close to the Appalachian forests. I still don't understand what's out there. It looks a bit like a deer, but it's a not deer. It watches, and it's not afraid of us. If you enjoyed this reading, please hit like and subscribe so you don't miss future stories. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. This has been Tales by Rachel, where we breathe life into every story.